conditions over Kansas that were very pleasant today. However, we are looking for a new front to begin to drift south and eastward. The central and eastern parts of Kansas will very probably be cloudy in the morning, and then western Kansas will begin to get increasing cloudiness by tomorrow afternoon. Today, however, very, very pleasant reading. 73 up in the Goodland area, 72 at Garden City, 70 reported by Dodge City and Liberal, 72 over by the good folks of Garden. And in the Ponca City Blackwell area, 68 degrees today. Winds southerly at about 15 gusts to 25 miles an hour. Barometric pressure 30.00 and is rising. And no precipitation. We're about a half-inch behind, correction, half-inch ahead for the year, and 1 53/100ths behind for the year so far. We'll be looking for a little bit of a change tomorrow, and of course the possibility of some scattered showers. Today, of course, there's nothing showing up on the radar. However, the satellite photo was pretty interesting for the western half of the U.S. Rain showers and thunder showers along that frontal system, and that wide band of fairly heavy snows. Now, what will happen each time that you see the frontal system on there? That begins at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll see the cloud pattern move until 2 o'clock this afternoon. So as of that time, of course, the front was way off in the northwest. Now, however, it's moving into the central part of the nation with a couple of high-pressure cells behind it. Cells behind it, and a few pockets of low pressure, and a fairly heavy band of rain showers and snow all the way from the eastern portions of Montana down to western sections of Nevada, and of course the massive high.
mind for this video to show some tips on learning new languages. I am a recent graduate of the University of Houston and I studied French and Italian. I'm a double major, so I do have my fair share of learning new languages and I wanted to share those tips with you guys. So I have 5 main tips that I wanted to share, and these are just very basic. Of course, every language varies and every language has its own components, different grammar, different writing scripts, so it just really depends. These are more general. So tip number 1 is resources. If you are teaching yourself a new language and you don't know anything about it, then you might be a little confused as where to start. First off, there are a lot of free programs out there like Duolingo, and there are hundreds of YouTubers who dedicate their channel on teaching other languages and teaching their native language. And some of them also have a background in teaching the foreign language. So it's always good to do your research. And there are also thousands and thousands of books out there that you can purchase that will guide you with learning that new language. When I was 10 years old, I remember I was at this library and I saw a Larousse book for Italian. And this was in Mexico, so the book was from Spanish to Italian. And I remember when I saw that book, I wanted it. I wanted to learn Italian. I was in love with Italian culture, so my dad bought it for me. And I'm telling you guys, at the age of 10, I was already teaching myself, so anyone can do it if you have the want and if you have that passion for other languages. You can do it. There's movies, you can watch movies in different languages. If you have Netflix, those Netflix originals, they are available in so many languages that you can watch them with the audio and then you can put subtitles on them. You can watch cartoons, you can watch whatever. There's also music. You obviously can find a whole lot of artists and different genres and different languages that you could just put on your playlist, and you can write down the lyrics down in a piece of paper, circle the words you don't know. It's a good way to expand your vocabulary, and if you sing along as well, it just helps so much. Just look for many different ways and many different things out there that's going to help you learn these languages. And don't just settle for one book, honestly. Like, I have so many and I have learned which ones are best for me, best for my ways of learning. Like I said, it just depends on the language, it depends on the person. So do your research and keep expanding your library. Tip number 2 is patience and dedication. When you're learning a new language, it requires a lot of memorization, and it's going to be difficult at the beginning, especially if the language has a new writing script or a new alphabet that you're not used to. For example, my first language is Spanish and then I learned English. So me learning Italian at the age of 10, it was easier for me because Spanish and Italian are Romance languages. So there was a lot of similarities and that helped me a lot. And then at the age of 15 was when I started learning French. Again, another Romance language, the same Latin alphabet. So of course it was easy for me to just jump in, and I had the same type of grammar. Everything was very similar. But then whenever I started studying Arabic, I was struggling so much with the Arabic script. I had no background knowledge of it. I took a semester in college and I felt like I was the only one without that background knowledge of the alphabet. So I did have to study a lot, but I did not give up because I was dedicated and I wanted to learn this language. So just be very, very patient. I know it's going to be very hard. It's going to be difficult. There were like 30 students in that class, and at the end it was only around 12 of us. So just don't give up and keep going. And tip number 3 is vocabulary. So like I said in tip number 2, learning a new language requires a lot of memorization, and expanding your vocabulary is like the main key point in learning language. Of course, you have to study other components like grammar, but you can't study grammar if you don't know vocabulary. So what I do is I keep a small notebook, or you can even open up a new note on your phone. And me personally, whenever I am talking to somebody or whenever I'm reading something in my head, I'll try to translate it to another language. For example, I'll be talking to my dad or my mom, and then whatever I say, I'm like, okay, do I know how to say this in French or Italian? And if I don't, then I pull up my phone, I look up whatever word I don't know how to say, and I write it down, and I look at that daily. I review the words because it is a good way to learn more everyday vocabulary. And tip number 4 is exposure. So if you're wanting to learn a new language, you have to expose yourself to their culture. Learn about how they communicate with each other, and that is also a good way to learn like idiomatic expressions and just how they communicate with each other, because we are all different, and something that can be polite here in the United States might be rude in whatever other country. And if you're learning a new language, it's obviously because you want to communicate with people in that country. So you have to learn their ways, you have to learn the do's and don'ts of their society. Which leads me to the last tip, and tip number 5, which is make mistakes. Do not be afraid of mistakes. So when you're learning a new language, you might find yourself encountering native speakers So that is your chance to shine. That is your chance to show what you know. And if you make mistakes, who cares? They'll understand and accept whatever correction they make to your speaking, to your pronunciation. Don't be embarrassed. It is just a way to better yourself in that language. If you're taking a class, don't be scared to say the wrong answer, because you're just gonna stay in your little shell and you're gonna be very insecure about the way you speak or how you speak. But if you expose yourself and if you make those mistakes, then you won't be afraid to expand your knowledge and to communicate, and you learn from those mistakes. So one of the main things that I believe in language learning is, again, vocabulary and memorization. So I want to show you what I use to memorize and to expand my vocabulary, and I use Quizlet. So the reason why I use Quizlet is because I can make my own sets in vocabulary or whatever. So in this case, I am learning some Arabic roots. So I'm making a new set and I added 5 flashcards. And this is what I do because repetition is the key to memorization. So I write out 5 flashcards and I study them, I memorize them, and it'll repeat the ones that you get wrong. So it'll show which ones you've mastered, which flashcards you've mastered, and which flashcards you still need help on, and it'll repeat those for you so you can memorize them with repetition and going over them again and again and again until you get them right. Once you've mastered those 5, add another 5, and then that way you can learn the new 5 while still reviewing the other 5. So now you have 10 altogether to study, and it is a good way to not forget what you've already studied and incorporate new vocabulary words or new sets. So yeah, I hope this video was very helpful and I hope it has inspired you to learn new languages. I personally want to keep studying Arabic and I'm starting to get into Korean and Japanese. So if you have other questions that you are curious about language learning or about me, about my journey with learning new languages, you can always comment down below, ask me questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. Or you can even DM me in my social media, which is linked in the description down below. So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave a like, and I will see you in my next one.